Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm Heatha Herzog. I am a retail analyst and national consumer spending expert. I'm also the Data Catalyst Institute Fellow, and I'm happy to welcome you here to the United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce 2022 Summit. We have a lot going on today, and I want to make sure that we get to it all. But first, I have a big number for you, which is 4.65 million. That is the amount of small business owners that are Hispanic here in the United States. And according to JP Morgan Chase, that number is going to go up 29% by 2050. So that is actually going to account for a lot of the small business owners here in the United States. And we're going to be talking a lot about that today in two of our panels. We are going to be featuring 3 small business owners that are here from the United States and that have created their businesses and how they've used digital tools to overcome unprecedented times during the last 2 years, as we all know, we've all encountered. We also have a second panel that's going to be talking about, there's 3 chamber CEOs that's going to be talking about how they've leveraged legislation and mobilized their communities in order to promote and foster growth in small businesses. But first, I want to introduce Rob Retzlaff. He is the executive director of 3C. So Rob, let's give Rob a big round of applause, please.
Thank you so much, Heatha, and thank you to the U.S. Hispanic Chamber of Commerce for having us here today. We're absolutely thrilled to be here live in person. It's been a long time coming, but and thank you to the audience for coming to this workshop. We're really happy to have you here. As Heatha mentioned, my name is Rob Retzlaff, and I am the executive director of the Connected Commerce Council, and we are a nonprofit membership organization made up of small businesses that use digital tools and technology to run and grow their business in various ways. At 3C, our mission is to help advance the interests, education, and engagement of small businesses that use tools and technology to help them scale and grow as efficiently as possible. As all of you know, over the last couple of years, access to affordable, scalable, and secure technology is so critically important now, probably more than ever. Coming out of this awful pandemic, small businesses and startups are well positioned for a substantial comeback as they're able to leverage tools and technology that make up what we've come to call the digital safety net. This digital safety net is comprised of various tools and platforms and marketplaces that have helped save, according to our research, approximately 11 million American small businesses and millions more jobs. As access to e-commerce and digital technology gives every small business an opportunity to reach customers all across the globe, working with small businesses at 3C here has been a great opportunity. I love, talking to different entrepreneurs, hearing about their business, learning, how they were able to adapt and withstand the challenges that were thrown at them during the pandemic, and in some cases actually thrive. Over the last 2 years, we have published several studies that have looked into how small businesses were staying afloat and how digital tools have helped unlock opportunities that have helped increase their agility, resilience, and ability to adapt to the constant challenges thrown at them. What we found was that the early adoption of digital tools equated to more success when digitally advanced businesses expected 4 times better revenue than their digitally uncertain counterparts. Additionally, those businesses that were more digitally advanced experienced 5 times higher customer retention rates and acquired customers at 20 times the rate of their digitally uncertain counterparts. As you can imagine, businesses that did not have that sound digital infrastructure in place before the pandemic hit and were reluctant to adopt technology during the pandemic struggled and had a really hard time trying to survive. And unfortunately, there were many that did not make it. In our latest report, which is accessible on the QR code in your handouts, we found that digital tools are continuing to help level the playing field for Hispanic-led small businesses, such as using low-cost, efficient digital ads and running online storefronts for payment processing. From this new research report, we found that 85% of Hispanic-led businesses saw a noticeable impact when using digital tools to expand their business operations. And compared to the national average of 73%, 81% of Hispanic-led businesses said that they're very optimistic about the future because of digital tools. Now, I know I just threw a lot of numbers and data out there at you, but in just a few minutes, we'll have the opportunity to hear from a couple of small businesses in terms of how they were able to use digital tools to start, run, and grow their businesses during the pandemic. But before we bring up that first panel, I'm really happy to introduce our special keynote speaker, who is one of America's preeminent political strategists and powerful voices on behalf of the Hispanic and Latino communities. He currently serves as principal at Melman Castagnetti and has decades of public service experience. Most recently, he served as chief of staff to California Senator Dianne Feinstein. And in 2015, he was nominated by President Barack Obama and confirmed unanimously by the Senate as Assistant Secretary of the Department of Commerce. Before working at the Commerce Department, he served as chief of staff to New Mexico Senator Martin Heinrich. And he also served as special advisor to then Congressman Javier Becerra, as well as an advisor to the Congressional Hispanic Caucus and as a liaison to House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. Additionally, he served as the Western Political Director for the DCCC and Hispanic Outreach Coordinator for the DNC. And in 2004, served as the Colorado Communications Director for John Kerry's presidential campaign. It's an absolute pleasure and an honor to have him here with us today, so please help me welcome the Honorable Steve Haro.
Rob, thank you for the warm introduction. I think the conclusion we could all make from that is that in 20 years of service, I've had a hard time keeping a job. Really appreciate Rob and the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce welcoming me here today. But mostly, I want to thank all of you. What I'd like to do with our time together, and I'm going to tell you why I'm going to thank you. I know the panel, which I'm looking forward to watching and seeing, is going to be talking about digital tools. We're going to go a little analog, though, for my time with you. As I understand it, you will be going up to the Hill tomorrow to be an advocate, to be a lobbyist. And what I'd like to do is talk to you about how to do that right and set the tone for that so that you can know what you're walking into and you can make the most of your time that you have there with it. And so what I appreciate about Rob sharing the fact that I can't keep a job is that my time professionally has been spent doing what you are about to do tomorrow, coaching people on how to do it, but also sitting behind the table and taking it in. And so what I'd like to do is first set the stage of what a congressional office is, some of the things dynamics that play out about it, and then talk about best practices and then take some questions if that's okay. What I'd first like to find out though, and this is why I want to thank you, how many people have come to Washington before and actively lobbied their member of Congress? Let's see a show of hands. Okay, and so is it good to assume that for the rest of you this is your first time? Okay. Thank you for coming out here, spending your own time, your dime to do this. Advocacy works. And I say this as a longtime congressional staffer, and now as somebody who coaches clients on how to do it properly, I can tell you advocacy works, but that does not mean that it is easy. And it does require your time to come out and do this. So what are you walking into? Let's talk about Congress for a sec, because folks want to think sometimes that Congress is like some homogenized body. It isn't. It is, honestly, 541 small businesses. That's what it is. And the member is the owner, just as you are, and they've got a whole operating system and business model that's going to be unique to them. Yeah, some of the titles are the same, but they're all different because, as we know, business owners have different personalities, right? And so you're walking into different personalities. But I also want to tell you some of the dynamics of a congressional office. And let's start with the House. Again, small business, right? A House office is capped out at 18 employees. They cannot hire more than 18 full-time employees. They can hire 4 more part-time employees for a total of 22. Guess when those levels were set? 1974. Before the fax machine. much less before email. At that time, each congressional office was representing approximately 400,000 people. An office now represents about 700,000 on average across. The budget for a House Congressional office, it varies, but not by much. The average is about $1.4 million. Now, you're thinking, how do I run a business with 18 people for 1.4? And that is for everything. That is rent, salaries, paper, iPhones, computers. It's everything except the member's salary. You've got to have everything fall in to that about $1.4 million. Now, why do I say that? Because these offices are spread thin. 18 employees for the entire operation here in Washington and back home. Okay? So what you're walking into is you're walking into folks who have very, very difficult jobs that are spread thin on the issues that they have to deal with, and they do not make a lot of money. They just don't. For a House office, you're probably going to see 3 to 4 legislative staff who are responsible for all the issues that you're coming in to talk about. And you are not the only meeting they're going to do that day. Yes, your issues are important. Yes, your issues are critical. But you will be one of, I don't know, depending on the day, 6 to 12 meetings that person's going to have. And so part of what you have to think about is, okay, what's going to make you marketable? What's going to make you memorable? In, just for, comparison purposes, when I was running Senator Feinstein's staff, we had 3 conference rooms in our Washington office. And from Monday to Thursday, every one of those conference rooms were booked for every half an hour, starting at 9 and ending at 6. That's almost like 56 meetings. And those were just the conference rooms. You may get pulled out of the office because they don't have room at the table, and you're going to be doing your meeting in the hallway. And you got to adjust, and you got to be dynamic, because Congress is busy, and it's great that we are coming back to whatever the new normal is going to be able to do it in person. But you're still going to be facing some interesting dynamics of folks who are spread thin, candidly. So I want to put that context in there because you're all dynamic, you're all business owners, you've all figured out ways to make adjustments based on how the customer is going to be, or how something doesn't happen right. So okay, we got to make an adjustment. Let's do that. That's what you're going to be facing tomorrow. So that's the dynamic and for just purposes of your knowledge, if you're also going to be going into silent offices don't work that way. Silent offices have a different way of budgeting. They're still a small business. But they're still spread thin. Comparison purposes, I had the great honor of being chief of staff to Senator Martin Heinrich from New Mexico. New Mexico, 2.2 million people. New Mexico in the House, I love it. So that business model, 42 employees, annual budget of about $3.3 million a year. Not for everything, like the House, but mostly salaries. Okay. A couple years later, Senator Dianne Feinstein, I'm a native Californian. I'm also the tallest, whitest Latino you're ever going to meet, so I just want to make sure I get my bona fides out there. A few years later, Senator Feinstein asked me to come be her chief of staff. California, my home state. Awesome. Largest office in Congress by budget and personnel. Remember New Mexico? 3.3 million, 43 people. California, 40 million. 5.5 million, 72 people. So, again, resources spread thin. And just so I want you to have that in mind as you're talking to folks. And so on the idea of what makes you marketable, what makes you memorable. One of the great things you have going for you as business owners is that you are at the vanguard of knowing about the microeconomy of that member, right? And at the end of the day, everything about politics and everything about service and everything about what a member truly cares about in order to get elected is how the microeconomy of their district and their state is doing. Everything comes down to economics. Healthcare is an economic issue. It's not about being healthy. It's about, can I afford it? Groceries, an economic issue. Can I afford it? And here you are, employing folks, paying folks, having customers. You have this view of how their district is doing in a way that few others can match. And I can say that with experience because, again, I have sat behind that table literally probably a couple thousand times in my career, sitting with business owners. And I want to say, and like my first question is always, how's business? Tell me how it's going. How many people are you employing? What's your average salary? Being able to share that kind of data with this staff, talk about sticking out. Talk about something unique. And don't get me wrong, again, all the issues are really important. It's important to learn about a disease and to advocate for funding at NIH for that disease. It is. But you get to talk in a way that speaks to the heart of the economics of how that district is doing. Because at the end of the day, as we all know, economics is what drives voter sentiment. And so if a district is doing really, really well economically, that is more of the chance that person's gonna get reelected. So I would encourage you to share the stories. Talk about your company. Talk about your employees. Talk about, if you can give numbers about average salaries and numbers of employees, great. Talk about your customers. Talk about economic output and input. Invite them to come visit you. Remember that advocacy in Washington is not just about the work you do in Washington, because you are going to have, 20 minutes tomorrow per office to really hit something home, because you're probably scheduled for about 30 minutes apiece. You kill a little bit of time with introductions. Try to minimize those. You have some substance. You have some wrap up. So really the core is going to be about 20 minutes. That's not enough. And it's certainly not enough to only do that once a year, though again, it is so critical that you come out here, that they actually see you, that they see you making the effort to come to Washington. But your advocacy does not end tomorrow when you walk out of that office, because again, they're going to be going right into the next meeting, and the meeting after that, and the meeting after that. And so what makes you sticky, just as we all, when we court customers and clients and so forth and so on, it takes a few times to land that. What makes you sticky is also the advocacy you're going to do back home. Because every single one of those members of Congress have a staff back home in their district whose job it is to know what's going on in the district. So you want to invite those folks over to come do a plant tour, come visit your offices, come sit with employees. Because those folks are going to really remember that. They also, candidly, they stick around in a congressional office longer. So the relationship you forge with the district staff will help make you more sticky with that member. And then write a thank you note. I cannot tell you how many times, how many meetings I've had where folks left, it's a good meeting, and then I heard nothing from them ever again. Nothing. No follow-up, even if I had some questions like, hey, can you send me some information here, because I think it'd be really, really critical. Nothing, and no thank you. We can never underestimate the power of a simple thank you. We just can't. And I tell you, if you do it, you're going to be unique. You will be memorable, because so few do it. So in that spirit, I want to thank you for making the time to come do this. Again, advocacy works. It does. And it works in the way it should. For all the crap that people want to discuss about money in politics and all the other things that we can get into if you wanted to, at the end of the day, you are constituents, you are voters, you are business owners, you are economic drivers for these folks. You coming to Washington, sharing the stories, is absolutely critical. But keep it going and forge those relationships. So thank you for doing it. I'm happy to take a few questions, Rob, if we have some time. Otherwise, you can just kick me off and we can go on to the panels. But thank you so much. Yes, sir. So did everybody hear that? In terms of like, okay, you're going to have the meeting, so what happens with the content and the substance of that meeting? Okay? Again, what's your name, sir? Mark. So Mark, what I'm going to tell you, I'll repeat what I said earlier about 541 small businesses, right? Real quick, 541. 435 members of Congress, 6 non-voting delegates, 100 senators, 541 small businesses. Every office is different. And it's not, you know, I can share with you the experiences I had and what we did and what the protocols were in place in some of the offices I ran. For Senator Feinstein, she required memos from legislative staff at the end of every week that went into a book on Friday morning that summarized the meetings that each legislative assistant had with folks, including business cards and due-outs. And she would go home. We'd send that, you know, to her home on Friday afternoons. She'd read it through the weekend, and then we'd have a staff meeting on Monday. And if she had due-outs from those due-outs, we would execute. In other cases, you know, it would go to a manager, like a legislative director or a chief of staff, to figure out how best to act, right? You know, what I will apologize for is that I do not know everything you are going to be asking for tomorrow. But by making the ask, you have started a process, right? So if you're asking somebody to sign a letter, or if you're asking somebody to co-sponsor legislation, you have made that ask. And so now it's incumbent upon the office to initiate their protocols on how to execute that ask and get you an answer. But this also is where I want to reemphasize the follow-up, because the volume that they are dealing with, as I've alluded to, sometimes things fall through the cracks. And I'm not saying that's right. I'm just saying that happens. And so it is important to do the follow-up, right? When you do send that thank you note. Okay, so you got, you know, some materials on the bill you asked to co-sponsor. You got the letter that you asked them to sign. You include that in the email. We'd really appreciate Senator Feinstein or Senator Heinrich or Senator Padilla signing on to this bill. And if you don't hear from them in a few weeks, follow up. Follow up. Just as we go chase down customers and sometimes have, you know, accounts receivable, have to go, you know, chase down people to pay. That's, you know, that's what you got to do. You've made an ask of your member of Congress. And ideally, their protocols work and they come back to you with an answer. And sometimes that answer is going to be no. Just is. But you got to get an answer out of them. Yes, sir, in the back. So the question was, and sorry, what's your name, sir? Jaime. So Jaime asked what the difference is between visiting in the district office versus Washington. So organizational chart of a congressional office. Policy, scheduling, communications is here in Washington. Back home, field representatives and casework. Caseworkers, staff who you go to help undo government red tape. Field staff are the folks that are supposed to be eyes and ears for that member, who go out and spend most of their time talking to people like you, going to facilities, seeing what's going on, eyes and ears to come up with ideas or see what problems exist. Policy folks are the ones that are going to be advising the member on votes, on co-sponsoring of legislation, and so forth and so on. So when you think about the folks back home, they're the eyes and ears. They're the ones where you want to be able to, you know, share the activity of what's going on. And if there are policy ideas that come out of that, they're going to communicate back to policy staff in DC. Here, you are telling the story as a constituent, but you are also advocating for a certain policy action. Does that help? Great. And I think I'm getting the rope. So thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you very much. All right. I'm super excited to introduce our first panel on the stories of empowerment, how digital tools have empowered small businesses. So we'll bring back Hitha, and she'll go ahead and introduce our first panel of businesses.
Thank you so much. I'm going to just take the stage over here. I think I'm mic'd, so I don't necessarily need this, correct? I'm going to give this back to you. All right. Let me, I think we're going to, I'm just going to stand up here and take the stage. Excuse me. All right, and I'm going to introduce our next panelist here. If you guys want to come on up, I have Alex Salazar. He is the founder of Chilitos, which we're going to get into, one of my favorite companies. I actually want to talk to everyone about my addiction to his candies. I also want to introduce Josie Teneo. She is with Josie and Michelle Events in New York. And I also want to introduce Chano Zavala. He is with Peninsula Party Rentals in Palo Alto, California. So thank you, panelists, for being here. Yay, seriously. Wait until you hear their stories because it's truly, truly remarkable. So I'm going to start with you, Alex. You know, I found Alex because I really had a craving for gummy bears, specifically Sour Patch Kids that are coated in chamoy. And I found Alex's company called Chilitos. So your digital tools, I mean, you really leverage digital tools to get the message out on your company. At the beginning, you had very little funding. So actually, you know what, before I start that, I actually want you to tell me about your business, and then we're gonna go down the line, and then we're gonna go back to that question.
Okay, sounds good. So hi everyone, my name is Alex. I'm the founder and CEO of Chilitos. We are a chamoy candy company based out of Los Angeles, California. And if you don't know what chamoy candy is, basically we take candy that you see at stores like Gushers or sour gummy bears, and we give them a Mexican twist. We basically add our chamoy sauce, which is sweet, sour, spicy, and salty all at the same time. And the why behind starting Chilitos goes back to the COVID-19 pandemic. When it started, I was working in the medical field. I was running a workers' comp clinic, and it changed everything for me. So I got COVID in July 2020, and I quit my job. And the very next day, I went on Google, I looked up how to make money online, and I found drop shipping. From there, we decided to go with that. And in 3 weeks, we launched our first online store. Through YouTube, Google, and online courses, we learned how to successfully run ads online. And we were running ads about $500 a day on Instagram and Facebook. And we were selling shapewear in 4 different countries, all from my laptop with 0 inventory, 0 overhead, and no employees, just me and my wife. Basically, we learned the hard way that running ads or that drop shipping from China is not a sustainable business here in the US. So we decided to have our own brand. So we launched a CBD company, but we learned again the hard way again that it's very costly because of the limitations of marketing online. So we were down in June 2021, we were down to just $300. And that's when we decided to, or actually we were introduced to chamoy candy by my wife's sister. And it was just so good, it was so flavorful. We just, decided, all right, here's an opportunity. So we went for it. We looked online, and there was the chamoy candy companies had a very low online presence. Most of them were just selling through Instagram and offering local pickup. So, we decided to go for it. We went to the store, got everything needed, and we started testing recipes batch after batch, looking for that perfect combination of sweet, sour, and spicy. And, sorry. And so, so we took everything I knew about building a brand from CBD, and I took everything about how to run an online store from our dropshipping business. We put it together, and Chilitos was born. And using Google Ads as our main traffic source, we started selling nationwide to all 50 states, military bases, and to Canada. And now, eight months since having launched, we get about 30,000 monthly visitors, and we have sold our candy to over 3,000 customers. We sold furniture, we rearranged our house, and we turned our house into a production company, or like a production warehouse. And our goal is to become the top chamoy candy company in the country, and we plan to do so by leveraging online tools. And very soon, we will be offering 30-minute delivery in New York and Texas through Uber Eats, DoorDash, and Postmates, becoming the first chamoy candy company to do so. And thanks to mastering these online tools in just 8 months, we have surpassed companies that have been doing this for years. So that's our story.
And I have to say, part of the reason why I know about your company is because, as I alluded to before, I had a late night craving for this candy, typed it into Google search, and suddenly I found them. So it is, and we're going to get into how you specifically leverage these digital tools, because I want to know how you knew that I had this craving that I can't get enough of. So Josie, you know, same thing, you're running a small business, you're running it with family. So tell us about how you started this business and where it is now.
Yes. Hello, everybody. My name is José Tineo. I am the president at Josie Michelle Events. We are an event planning company that was born a little bit over 10 years ago, where my partner and I, Michelle Peralta, were the two moms in the family, basically planning everybody's birthday party and social events. And we were so good at it that a family member told us that we should make a business out of this. And so we opened Josie Michelle Events. And when we started at the beginning, for us, digital tool was the main source. So we started with Google. We started teaching ourselves to be a florist at the beginning, because when you start, you don't know what exactly you're gonna do. So we use YouTube, we use Google and Pinterest to show our potential clients what we were able to do. And obviously the family came along with us. 10 years after, we are 17 of us already, and we're still utilizing all of the digital tools that we were able to use right now to just keep our company growing.
So from family and a long-lasting company to Chano's company, Chano, you've been in business for 17 years?
That's right.
Almost approaching 2 decades. Tell us how you got started with this small business, because you were working in a warehouse, correct, with your wife?
Correct.
And then you had this idea.
Right. Well, actually, the idea was planted by my boss. Mm-hmm. I approached him when me and my wife had twins. So I approached him to get a raise. Mm-hmm. And he told me, well, if I give you a raise, you're going to make more money than me. So he said, why don't you just do your own business and kind of, take it from there and make your own money? Mm-hmm. So I said, yeah, that's a good idea. So back in 2005, we started our business. He actually lent us some money to start our business.
And the business that you were working at initially was?
It's a party favor company. And and they weren't interested in expanding into rentals. Mm-hmm. So I said, hey, go on rentals, I'll lend you some money. So we pulled, that loan with other loans from family members, and we launched Peninsula Party Rentals. Mm-hmm. And, 17 years ago, there was no digital tools. Mm-hmm. So we had to take out ads on the yellow pages. It was very expensive, and it proved to be utterly useless. For 5 years, or maybe a little more than that, our business stayed the same. We were doing it out of our garage because, so it was, when Google came around, we took Google Ads. Mm-hmm. First year we took Google Ads, our business grew 900%. Mm-hmm. And that took us off the ground. We started investing into the business. And
what year was that?
That was 2010.
Okay.
When we started to get off the ground. And everything was great. I mean, we kept on growing every year, steadily growth, and we kept investing into this business. We, now we have a 10,000 square foot warehouse versus our 200 foot garage. So, but then COVID hits, and everything stopped. 100% of our contracts were canceled.
And we're going to get into that in a second, because he has a very interesting story. Chano has a very interesting story about what they had to do as a business to get over the challenge of COVID and pandemic shutdowns. But first, As I first started out, I was talking with Alex. I was telling you about how, of course, I cannot, the more I look at Alex, the more I want my candy. So I'm telling you, it's addicting. So Alex, you were saying leveraging digital tools obviously got you to me. It got you to so many different people around, not just you're based in California, I'm based in New York, but all over the world and different demographics. What digital tools did you use initially? Because we're talking about a very small amount of funding that you used to start this company, and we're to the tune of $300. Alex and his wife, who's sitting in the front, started this company. So tell us about the digital tools you used and what was the multi-digital approach? What type of tools did you use?
For sure, yeah. So like I said, Google Ads was the primary traffic source. We started off spending $10 a day because we just could afford a certain amount of candy. And with $10 a day, we started running a lot of ads using transactional keywords like chamoy candy near me, Mexican store near me, Mexican, just things like that, right? And we started running ads across the whole country. We were letting the AI of Google find people for us. And as we grew our budget by $10 each week, I just did it very consistently. It found more and more people. And like I said, and something else that was very interesting was that our primary target, our primary customer ended up not being Latino at all, who are the people who know the candy. It ended up being white people, Asian people, black people. And I think that's the magic of the tool. That's the magic of the tool. It finds people looking for what you're selling. No matter where you're at, you can reach that customer. As long as you have your shipping in order, you can get to that customer as well.
And it speaks to the power of AI because it's very specific, those search terms. I think that's what I must have put into Google. And it's interesting because clearly this AI knew exactly what I needed at that moment and the time that I was searching for them. So kudos to you for understanding that and analyzing the data specifically to make it work for your business. Now, Josie, your business is different in the sense that so much of it has been done, it's in person, it's an events business. So your whole business was based on people congregating and meeting together. Your trade shows, because you do so many different weddings and baby showers, those are all in person. So when the pandemic hit and COVID happened, you had to really switch your business, but you leveraged a lot of different tools. I think you told me 11 different tools you were using, if not more? More. Okay, so tell us about that, because when you think, I personally would think that it would get overwhelming using all of those, but how do you make it work for you?
Yes, absolutely. So we see that our audience is more visual. So we need to, so for example, at the beginning, we started with Pinterest. Pinterest is a tool that helped us show them what we were able to do, right? And obviously, we have to then switch to Aisle Planner, which is a project management tool that we use for all of our weddings. Now, when the pandemic came, we have to keep it going and thinking, now that people are not together, what can we do to keep our business going? And knowing that we knew about digital tools, our staff were working mostly remotely. And so we felt comfortable meeting online, and then we realized that why don't we then plan events virtually? So we started offering in the middle of the pandemic. Actually, we went in lockdown on March 15. By March 29, we then showcased our next service, which was virtual events. So we were able to do birthday parties and holiday events for corporate companies and workshop and webinars and all of it, even dance party in the middle of the pandemic. So that's how we
I think I went to a digital dance party during the pandemic. I will admit that. Do you think because your business was smaller and so streamlined that you were able to pivot quickly?
I guess it was like managing and using the digital tools. Like anybody can do it. However, For us, because we were a small business and we needed to find a way to pivot, that's why we decided to do virtual events, including bridal expos online, to be able to be upfront with potential leads.
Chano's business is almost events adjacent because you're party rental.
That's right.
And so similarly, the pandemic took a hold of us. I can imagine that this brought your business to a standstill, and this was a major challenge. I mean, you have twin daughters,
Twin
right?
daughters.
Yeah, I have twin daughters as well. I can imagine there's a lot of bills coming your way, just like me. But what did you, I mean, how did you, tell us how you overcame some of those challenges? Because I could imagine that would have, I mean, you must have been, at a standstill like all of us for months on end. And which tools did you use in order to get that word out?
Yeah, right. Yeah, absolutely. So we stopped. We completely closed down for an entire month. We thought that this pandemic was going to be over soon, and I was wrong. So after a month without income, we used up our old savings, and we started to panic. So I said, well, we need to do something. We got together with my wife and said, we have to do something. So first thing I did was I went to my Google platform, and I rerouted my advertising towards hospitals, restaurants, and government agencies that were using the products that I was offering. So immediately I started getting orders through my website.
Did you then did you say, well, I'm going to go for the biggest potential clients at that point? Like, let's go big or go home kind of thing?
No, well, actually, no. But I noticed that there was a lot of need for example, canopies and seating, outdoor seating. So I identified that, so I kind of focused and rerouted my advertising towards that. Because I was not getting any orders, 0 orders before that. So when I rerouted my marketing towards hospitals and government agencies and restaurants, I immediately started getting orders. And from the littlest restaurant that needed seating for 20 people to hospitals that needed a tent to have an emergency room outside their hospital. So I called back my team and said, let's go back to work. This is working. So that kept paying the bills. And just the ease of changing my advertisers, just from one target audience to another target audience, is so easy and so immediate. I think that saved my business.
And you really had the foresight to make, again, be nimble enough to make that switch. And what I'm hearing across the panel is that, I mean, yes, you're utilizing Google search terms, Google ads, but you're also analyzing the data. I think when you think of data, you think, you got to be a computer scientist from Stanford in order to look at these numbers, but that's actually not the case. So we have about 2 minutes. I want to just go down the line because I would love to hear your advice from each of you to small business owners out there and those that are watching us right now on the live stream. What would you tell people if they were, or maybe what would you tell yourselves when you were first starting out? Because I'm sure there are people out in the audience right now that are just like you. Right. What would you tell them, and how to use digital tools to leverage and grow their businesses now?
Well, first thing I'll say is don't lose sight of your goals. Keep on persevering is very important. That's what I did. Another thing is that we live in the age of technology. Let's embrace that. There is a lot of digital tools that are available to us to start, to grow, and to get back to business. Let's use those tools to make our business grow again, go strong, and a lot of them are free. Just take advantage of that.
Free. That's a really good point. Yeah. Josie.
Yes. So I would say that experiment with all of the tools you have digitally. You can start with all the free ones, and then experiment on the ones that actually take you where you want to be. see what works for your audience, for me, is more visual. So I have to learn about each one of them in order to attract my potential leads. But we are always, every day, open to use all of the digital tools that are coming along.
Okay. And Alex?
For me, I would definitely say learning how to interpret data and not being intimidated by it, because all digital tools give you tons of data. Like we use email marketing, and Klaviyo has like so many data points. Same with Shopify. If you know where to look and how to look and not be intimidated by it, you will see the answers to your next business move in the data. It will always tell you.
Okay. Amazing, amazing panel. I'm going to open it up to the audience for any questions you may have, specifically for the panel. Anyone want to ask anyone anything? No questions? Oh, okay, sure.
You mentioned that it was kind of self-education. Is that across the board, everyone learned on their own? That's incredible.
So when I started, I thought that I wanted to be a florist, and I self-educate myself, and I did it. And then I realized, no, this is not for me. So in the first 5 years, it was just realizing our potential and what was it exactly that our clients needed out of us. So I'm not a florist.
And yes, I'll answer that as well. Yes, I am self-taught. And I created my own website, and I manage my AdWords, and I manage all my social media. So yes, it's very easy to do. I mean, if you're running a large corporation, you might want to have somebody to do it for you. Small companies like ours, I'll say, I think, I've speak for, I think all of us that yes, self-thought and self-managing.
I find that really inspiring. I'm a president of a chamber, so we have a lot of businesses, and
Oh.
they know they need to be doing what you're doing. They think they need to hire someone, and so they tell themselves, I don't have enough money to hire someone, and then they just stop there. So
Right.
I'm really inspired by what y'all are saying.
Yeah, and it's really easy. You tell your members that it's really easy, a lot easier than it looks. Just try it. You can't go wrong. You learn from every step that you make.
And Alex, too. I was going to say, go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, and my thing would be when it comes to that, it all comes down to how good are you at asking the question to Google. If you know how to ask the right question to Google, Google will always give you the answer. Always.
Google's amazing. All right, we have another question.
So Regina Hayward, this has been such an inspirational panel. I agree with you. Now that you know what you're capable of and you've made some very difficult pivots, what does the future look like? So are you thinking about continuing to grow your businesses? Just wondering what ideas you have as far as how you're going to move forward.
So yes, one thing that now that events are opening up, so we're still catching up from the pandemic weddings, right? So, but at this point this year, we already matched the same amount of events we did in 2021 already this year, which means, and we are just in March. So a goal for us is to bring in more team, so we don't have to physically be at every event. Now we're gonna be able to stay in our offices and send team members to manage all of the events.
Alex? Yes, definitely. Unfortunately, during the pandemic, a lot of our competition did not survive. So that is an opportunity for us to grow even bigger. So we have all the energy in the world to, just go and take the opportunity to grow. It's unfortunate that a lot of them didn't make it. We did, so we're taking advantage of that.
And Chano, your business is now at the levels that was at your highest level in 2019, correct?
Exactly. So in March of this year, just a week ago, we met our 2019 levels of sales, which means that we are fast on a recovery. And I hope that keeps going, and we have all the energy to embrace that.
And I know, Alex, I'm going to be doing a lot of ordering from your website, too. And you're actually doing a couple events as well. You're providing some candies for events and private events.
Yeah, but I would say, exactly. So, the biggest thing for us, going into the future is going to be focusing on that 30-minute delivery. We're going to start in 2 markets, New York and Texas, but we're going to look to be in all 50 states within like 6 months to a year, simply leveraging, again, these online tools. And knowing that once we have that recipe that works and, like you said, cause that obsession, we just need to figure out how to get it to the customer as efficiently as possible. So.
All right. I know we have so many other questions, and I think we have to wrap. Unfortunately, I'm getting the wrap sign over there from Rob. So I know our panelists are going to be here later. You guys are sticking around, right?
Yeah, we'll stick around for a few
panel.
minutes.
So if you guys have more questions, please ask them. In the meantime, I'm going to invite Rob back up here because we have the 3 chamber CEOs coming for our panel. Thank you so much. Our second panel, I should say. Thank you all so much.
All right, thank you guys very, very much. Very inspiring, and thank you, Heatha, for moderating that. While we transition to the next panel, I'd like to invite my colleague John Potter up, who will be moderating this second session on mobilizing communities and policymakers around the impact of digital tools. So,
is my mic hot? Great. Thanks, everybody. That was a great panel, right? That was partiers, and candy. Right, that's a really good thing afternoon, right? We needed coffee to wake up from lunch, but that was a really good start. So I also want to note, right, for the chamber president who asked that question, we now have the chamber presidents up here. I'm sorry you're not on this panel, maybe next year, because there's always room for another if you want to really jump up. So I know the panelists are getting mic'd up. So he said I could tell like 2 minutes of jokes, but that's not a good thing to do these days, right? I'm not going to say anything about anybody's spouses, right? No. So, and Chana, thank you.
My pleasure.
So we've had some great op-eds published about Chano's business. We got 3, we're all mic'd up. Excellent. I'm going to come up here, and we're going to get down to business. What this really is today is an excuse for all of us to wear real clothes, right? How many people go into their closets these days and literally say, ooh, does it fit? Does it match? Is it clean? Right? But that's not why we're here. So we're going to make this really simple. I've got 3 great local chamber presidents and one who is, if I recall correctly, the U.S. Chamber of Hispanic E-commerce Businesses. I believe I got that acronym. Well, I don't know the acronym. But we're going to go right down the row. Folks are going to tell you who they are and where they're from, make it really simple. And then I've got a whole bunch of questions just in case they can't find enough to talk about. So please, let's start.
Reuben Franco, I am the president and CEO of the Orange County Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. I'm also honored to serve on the U.S. Hispanic Chamber of Commerce Board. And I'm also the center director of our Small Business Development Center, which is under the SBA. So thank you for having me here today. Appreciate it.
Good afternoon. Jaime Di Paulo, President and CEO of the Illinois Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. We have about 5,000 paying members. I want to say we're one of the biggest chambers around because we represent the whole state. And by the way, I just got a 10% discount on the roulette, so I ordered I ordered a peach ring, so they should be coming soon.
Hold on.
Wow. I already made the order, but so we are a team of 22 employees, full-time employees. So our budget is about $4 million. We focus a lot on procurement and digital inclusion. So I'll be happy to be here.
Good afternoon. My name is Taide Burt. I'm the founder of the Hispanic Chamber of E-commerce. And in September 2020, we launched the U.S. Business Association of E-commerce. So since 2008, we have been promoting the use of the internet in the Latino business community. And I never thought that it was going to take a pandemic to have more success stories like the ones that we heard earlier. Thank you for having me.
Great. Reuben, I want you to just jump in with the question that the chamber president over here talked about, how there are entrepreneurs who are afraid, right? They're timid about can I do this? Can I get on the internet? Can I do Google Ads? Can I build a Facebook page or a website? Talk about how your Small Business Development Center, and this is for the chamber presidents in the room, this might be something you can do back home to help your membership in your community.
Yeah, I mean, we're fortunate enough to host a Small Business Development Center, but you most likely have one in your area, and I would take advantage of it. I mean, I seriously would take advantage of it because there's resources there already. We get funding from the SBA, the Small Business Administration. We get funding from our governor's office. And we get funding from banks like U.S. Bank and Wells Fargo and Comerica and many others, and we provide all those services for no cost. So I would reach out if you don't already have a collaboration with your SBDC or local SBDC or SBA office or even SCORE, I would do that in a heartbeat, just because hopefully we don't have another pandemic, right? Hopefully we don't have another situation like we do, but you need to get out ahead of it, and ahead of time will just be amazing. Like we used to have, like in 2019 we had 3,000 clients that we saw. In the first 3 months of the pandemic we saw over 12,000. So, and people were scared. People wanted to know, what do I do? Where do I go? What loans are available? And so we helped them with EIDL and then PPP as it came along, and then all the other CARES Act money that came along. And then we helped them digitally. We helped them, pivot to a digital platform if they didn't already have one, or if they had one, to help them enhance what they had, because that was going to be kind of the new normal for a while anyway. And so we were able to help a lot of people by doing that, and we look forward to continuing to help people do that. And then as they come out of the pandemic, where do they go next? When we were at March 18th at 3 p.m., we started having these calls about what to do, and we would have like 600 people on the call every day and more. And now what do we do going in the future as the EIDL loans are gone or leaving, and the PPP loans and the other type of CARES Act money is gone? What do we help our entrepreneurs to do? Is that getting on digital platforms? Is that finance? We're here to help, and that's the way we look at it, is just continue to help as many people as we can.
Thanks. That's really helpful. Jaime, you've got an interesting operation going, but I want to go to something you and I talked about how you define a small business, how the SBA defines a small business, right? And what does that mean when it comes to having, doesn't every small business have an IT director who can build their website for them? And what does that mean for what we're here talking about today?
Well, thank you. Yeah. So when the SBA talks about small business, they talk about 500 employees or less.
Anybody in the room have 500 employees?
So
400.
So right off the bat, overwhelmingly, in the United States, we like to have 20 employees Latino firms. The ones that make it over 20, they pivot and make a lot of money. But unfortunately, our businesses don't grow as the pace as the other communities are growing. So when the SBA comes out and says, we're going to help you PPP to 500 employees or less, right off the bat, we're not even on the picture, because we're like at 20 employees compared to, a company of 100 employees in our world is a big corporation. And you probably know that. So organizations like ours stepped in and to help people like with digital inclusion. We see an opportunity here with digital inclusion to even the playing field with big corporations. The internet tools, for example, that Alex is doing, he's actually competing hand in hand with the biggest candy stores in the world, because now he has on his hands the digital inclusion, the internet that can actually help him compete at a playing field level. It's very different when you when you see a Walmart and then you see a corner store, right? Right away, who's the big guy? But now you get him on the internet, now you even the playing field. Now you have an opportunity to grow and survive. Now, to my colleague's point, in the way I define small businesses, we're very good in the front office, but we're very bad in the back office. And that's not because we don't care. We have, for example, I'll give you a story in Illinois. In Illinois, 67% of our 120 Latino businesses have less than 4 employees. So how can you expect a company have an IT guy building the resources they need to even promote the services where they don't have the manpower, the staff to help them develop that. So for example, we also have an SBDC in our office, and we actually have a full-time person helping minority-owned businesses build their websites and create those, because they're very good in the WhatsApp, right? Latinos are like #1 in WhatsApp. So it's no different, man, So that's what we do, sir.
That's great. And by the way, we have a fantastic 3C board member from Chicago who is a digital marketing wizard. We have Skills Connect workshops, and he goes online, and he's got hundreds of clients all over the country, all small businesses, right? And he basically says, this is how you turn Yelp into your favorite thing, right? Or Facebook or Amazon reviews. This is how you use these tools without an IT director, right? This is how you market yourself. So we are also able to partner with you live and in person in Illinois or online with any of the chambers with some of our digital marketing specialists who are available. So we're happy to make that available. Taide, if I'm a small business and I'm selling things, I have no choice but to be on Amazon, right?
No, you have options. And you and I discussed this yesterday. When a small business owner is considering to participate in the digital economy, you have different phases. You can start with Instagram, you know, like, and a lot of businesses in our community go that route because it's the easiest for them, even when they don't have a website. We have a lot of members that started like Chinitos, selling their products and services through Instagram or Facebook or WhatsApp. But then once you kind of like get your feet wet and you feel comfortable, you know, taking credit cards and taking online payments and managing those transactions, then you can start going into platforms that it allows you to create websites or e-commerce sites very easily, like Shopify, right? Or you can start participating in Amazon Marketplace. But you need to be aware that when you participate in all these different marketplaces, there are costs involved. It's not going to be free. There are costs involved. And as a business owner, you have to conduct an assessment of your operation to make sure that when you start participating at that level, you're going to put a little markup on your prices, right? Because all these platforms, they like to take a little piece of a pie. And then from there, if you're already feeling comfortable participating in these marketplaces, which is a trend that is going to keep going up as a result of this pandemic, we're going to start seeing more and more marketplaces in different verticals, different industries. And as a business owner, my recommendation to you is that you participate in every single marketplace that makes sense for your business, because they all offer different opportunities. But you just need to consider the cost of doing business there, right?
It's very, you know, we didn't hear, Alex, I don't know if you're selling on the Amazon Marketplace or the Walmart Marketplace or anything like that, but it sounds like you have a lot of, probably a lot of sympathy for what Taide is saying about how there's different options of how to sell. Jaime, when we talked about digital inclusion, and we talked about the digital divide, and I'm here in Washington, and here in Washington for 20 years we've been talking about the digital divide, and it's always about who has broadband service, right? Who has a big fat pipe that can push lots of content through, which neighborhoods have it, which neighborhoods don't, which school districts have it, which school districts don't. But Jaime, when you think about digital inclusion, it's not just the pipe, right?
No, it's education, it's money, it's maintenance. I mean, it's great to build a website, but then who's going to maintain it, you know?
Promote it.
And promote it. How are you going to promote your products there and that kind of stuff? Yeah, it's very complex. It's free and it's very low cost, but it's very hard to manage. And so, you know, you're talking to someone that was an adult when the internet was invented. So I'm digitally impaired, right? But I surround myself with folks that actually help me or make me a better person because they're digitally savvy, right? Like young persons or my daughter or something like that.
And we talked about the value of those free tools, right? Digital inclusion, sure, if you have a big fat pipe, but if you don't have free tools to use, right? We talked about and easy tools to use, right? When Chano's out there buying his own ads on Google, previous to the internet, I bet Chano didn't have an advertising agency for his television ads, right? But all of a sudden Google comes in, and somebody said something about how when you're on the internet, you're just as big as Walmart.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
And you use a little color, you use a little, you know, some emojis, and all of a sudden you're an interesting ad, and maybe you'll even go viral. Reuben, talk about what's going on in Orange County with the businesses that you work with, how they made it through, right, the tumult of COVID, and what their spirits are like now.
Yeah, Orange County is a great place to work, live, and play. I mean, if you guys haven't been out there, please come out. It's always a Chamber of Commerce day out there. When it's below 70, it's cold for us, so this is a little chilly for us. But we're fortunate. We're on the campus of University of California, Irvine. We collaborate. We're all about collaboration, working with our whole community, and I think that shows because we're willing to help whoever needs our help. It's taking kind of a servant attitude to help those small businesses. And Stephen, who was our keynote speaker, talked about going to your local representatives and to their offices and things like that. And what happens a lot of times is that we go to ask for something, but some of the best things are actually you to go to help them. They need your help. If they are having 56 meetings a day in some case, or a week, or whatever it may be, whatever the number was that Stephen threw out, that's a lot. But if you could be a resource to them, that helps our small business community. So we'll go in with, and I think you have a nice thing on here with all your numbers. We'll go in with numbers showing them what they're supporting and what they can continue to support. So we're not there to technically just ask. We are kind of asking, but we're showing them what their dollars are going to. Because our businesses, are concerned about what's next. We've come out of the pandemic. I think people were pretty spirited in Orange County and were willing to kind of work together and figure it out. Not everybody survived. I know a lot of our smaller restaurants started going, online into DoorDash type situations just to survive takeout, and they did, and we were able to help them with some of the different loans out there. But what's next? Where do we go from here as we come out of the pandemic? I think that's what most of our business owners are concerned about.
One of the exciting things that happened in the first panel was when the three businesses talked about how optimistic they were about the future, or how optimistic they are about the future. And one of the statistics that I don't think Rob read off earlier from our research is that digitally advanced small businesses are more optimistic. Not just after COVID because they survived, but just they were more optimistic before. And I think that was because when you start playing with digital tools, literally the whole world opens up, right? It's extraordinary. Our founder from 3C is a guy from Greenville, Maine, and if I recall correctly, he said that's a no stoplight town, not a one stoplight town, right? And so he grew up with 14 local businesses, and local meant local up there. And in the winter, local meant like really local because nobody moved, right? Yeah. Now all of a sudden those local businesses are global, which is so exciting. So Taide talked about how all the companies that you were helping bring online in 2010 and 2012, right? The costs of going online and the hardships of going online, things like that, compared to what it is today, and how exciting that is for the businesses you're working with.
Oh yeah, I remember in 2008, building a basic e-commerce site, it will cost you $2,500, $3,000, $5,000, depending on how robust your operation was. But now, we created a marketplace where we can help our members to have an e-commerce store for the price of a membership for $19.97 a month, right? And just like that, there are many different options out there. You can have a WordPress site connected to WooCommerce. It's free. You just pay your hosting and domain, and then you have 100% control of your operation. You just mentioned a great email marketing tool, which is like the best one for e-commerce, Klaviyo. And we have more options, to do email marketing, social media marketing, and funneling all that traffic for a specific purpose, a transaction in your hub, whether it is your Instagram or is your website, which I always recommend to have a website. But the cost of doing business online, it has dropped dramatically in the last 10 years. And now small business owners, as a result of this pandemic, they are considering a hybrid business model. I'm talking to my members. I said, don't quit on the idea of still serving the local market, because that's how you started, and that's how you start building prosperity for your family. But now you discover the beauty of the digital economy, and that can add another additional income to your company if you are very strategic about how you leverage both worlds, right? The physical and the digital. And I think that we have all the tools necessary, not just to compete locally, but nationally and globally, if your product or service solve a need or a problem outside your comfort area.
It's very interesting that digital commerce was the incremental addition, right, to your brick and mortar commerce in 2017 and 2018. Then, all of a sudden it became everything, right? And now what you're saying is don't abandon your local storefront. Your local community is still worth having, right? I lived in Costa Rica in 2017 and 2018. And my mind was blown when I went down there, and very, very, very few businesses had websites. They all had Facebook pages. And frankly, they all had WhatsApp, right? None of them had telephone numbers as we grew up with it here, as I grew up with it in the United States. And when I thought about it, right, Facebook pages are free, right? And you can't customize it like you can with your website, but you talk about what free tools are out there to help you get business, and you can use Messenger on your page, and you can sell on your page. It's pretty remarkable. Optimism, resilience, digital inclusion. Sounds like these digital tools are pretty good for small businesses.
They are.
Yeah.
There's a place in, everybody here's from warm weather. I'm from Chicago. It's
It's
Chicago.
warm there a few
It's very
weeks
warm.
a year.
Inside, but anyway.
Yeah.
There's a street called 26th Street in Chicago, which is the number 2 economic engine of the city of Chicago. It's a Mexican business street. But there's a quinceañera store, a bridal store, right? And with obviously the same story when the pandemic happened, there was no quinceañeras, right? And for us Mexicans, it's a very significant event. So this lady, because of the free digital tools, started doing, out of the clothing that she was doing for quinceañeras, she started doing masks. Well, she just became a millionaire doing that. She started selling those masks in design, and every Major League Baseball team has those masks. I mean, she has pivoted because of the free technology tools at her disposal. And this is a Mexican immigrant that came to the United States with a dream, and now she just became a millionaire.
That's great. I think what we've learned today, and what you probably already knew, is that the chambers of commerce, which were probably thought of as nice to haves, right, in the last 2 years have become really critical to so many more people, right? The growth in your Small Business Development Center, right, attendance and the growth in these activities has been extraordinary because it became must-haves. And so I think for the chambers out there, this has probably been incredibly stressful for all of you, but you should all feel so good, right? We all will lament the challenges and those who didn't make it, their businesses make it through, but the opportunities now to spring forward are really exciting. So let's take questions if anybody has any. Yes, sir.
You always talk about that the money that was offered to a small business through the PPP program was not even close to what the grown sales from Amazon. And you talk about that, please?
Well, yeah, no, it was e-commerce in general. I mean, since the pandemic started, a lot of businesses were able to survive thanks to the internet. Not all of them had access to PPP or other grants. So those that had the ability to start selling their products and services online, they're still in business. And for me, that was like a great motivation because I've been talking about this since 2008, and a lot of businesses in our community didn't want to listen to what I had to say back then. And now they are all ears. I mean, we went in our platform from reaching about 6,000 to 8,000 business owners and professionals on a monthly basis to 50,000. And that's like a bigger responsibility because now every time I turn on the Facebook Live, I know that more people are watching, and it's a big responsibility. But as long as we keep true to our mission, which is the economic empowerment of small businesses by using the internet as a business tool, we're going to be in good shape, and we're going to be contributing to build economic prosperity in our community thanks to the digital economy. So anyone in this room, associations, business owners who wants to create a positive impact in the community, keep talking about the digital economy and educate your businesses about the benefits and the wonders that all these platforms have to offer for all of them.
And when you go to visit Capitol Hill, tell them the digital economy works.
Yeah.
It works for small businesses. And while they're up there grousing, with all due respect, about how gigantic Facebook or Amazon or Google are, all we're hearing in this room is how good those platforms are for the smallest of small businesses, right?
Home-based
if you have
businesses.
30 people, somebody can build you a website, one of your team. If you have 5 people, you need easy, self-help, inexpensive tools. And it's very nice that Google and Facebook are able to do that for you. So for $10 a day, you can advertise and build a business. That's pretty cool. Other questions? Yes, sir.
So, I mean, it's great to highlight the great positives about marketing your tools online, but I want to highlight the realistic nature of rapid growth as well. So I own a marketing company and I help small businesses. But I've seen the other side of putting yourself out there and not being ready as well when the orders come in. So we have to highlight and understand the responsibility before doing what you guys are talking about so that Latino businesses don't fail.
So interesting, when we were talking earlier about direct-to-consumer versus Amazon, right? Ty Day was talking about how it has costs. But I bet Alex can talk about the costs of him and his wife working all night, packaging things up, running to the post office, putting the stamps on it, right? Buying the boxes, and all of a sudden boxes aren't available because there's supply chain problems, and now what do you do and how do you fill your orders, right? Because you got too big too fast. So the cost of running a small business, we have another entrepreneur who said to us, he started his business when he saw that Amazon was going to do Fulfilled by Amazon. He said, if they're going to take my product from the warehouse to the customer and manage returns and boxes and and stamps and things like that, I should start a business, right? He made a different choice. He said, I'd rather pay Amazon 20 or 30% of revenue and not do the work, right? So I can focus on product design. That's a choice. Alex has chosen to do the work himself right now. And maybe when if too many orders come in, he'll flip. And maybe it'll split or something like that, right? I don't know how you're going to manage 30-minute delivery in all of these, in all of Texas and California, working out of your garage. But yeah,
we partner with the companies to do it. They run the warehouses.
Drones, baby. It's all
fulfillment centers.
So you can actually negotiate with Amazon to lower the cost. You can negotiate with Uber Eats. I mean, everybody complains about the 30% if you're on food about the charge, but you can negotiate. My wife owns a little shop in Chicago, and we negotiated to 10%. Because we talk to them. All you got to do is talk to them or talk to us. We'll go do it for you.
Yeah. And if you can get 10% by joining the chamber, now you have a membership tool. Yeah. This is a good thing. Everybody pays 30% unless you're a member of the chamber.
That's right.
Yeah. This is good. Other questions? Great. Oh, one more. And she's going to wait for the microphone. She's our first questioner who waited for the microphone.
So you guys were talking about like how digital platforms are helping you guys with your small businesses. What do you guys think of digital currency, since that's a ongoing debate in the news and whatnot? I work on the Hill too as an intern, so we often have these conversations. Just wanted to hear your guys' input. Do you see digital currency helping your guys' small businesses?
I think she's asking about Bitcoin and crypto
I know what she's
and all this stuff that
we don't have any experience with that, at least as of now.
It's so new that we're just starting to understand it. We're just waiting for the feds to regulate it.
Yeah.
We'll get in there.
And on our end, I can tell you that it's a trend that is not going to stop. So we have to start embracing it. As part of our marketplace or the platform that we build, we already have an e-wallet in the membership. So we're just waiting for the right partner to come and create this. We're investing in creating this online ecosystem where we can provide different products and services to the businesses that participate within this network. And we're already thinking about, or we already have a digital wallet. So whenever we can connect different APIs, whether it's through Bitcoin, Ethereum, or connect maybe with Coinbase and have Latino businesses or small businesses who are already taking digital coin, they're going to be able to do these transactions through this marketplace and others that are going to be available out there. So it's not going to stop. It's a trend going forward, and we just need to embrace it and be prepared for it.
Yeah, Elon Musk is not selling his crypto right now, so that might be a telltale sign what's going on.
Well, we are a little over time, so I want to wrap and make sure everyone gets to their next workshop on time. Thank you very much to our panelists. Thank you, John. Thank you, Heatha. And thank you, Steve. And thank you to the U.S. Hispanic Chamber as well. Thank you.